she saw her billionaire CEO ex in a medical chair, isolated at the wedding. "Why are you really here, Darius?" My voice cut through the night air like a blade, sharp, controlled, deadly. He sat there in that wheelchair, moonlight casting shadows across a face I used to kiss goodnight. His hands gripped the armrests so tight his knuckles had gone pale. "Simone, don't." I held up my hand, camera still hanging from my neck like a weight. "Don't you dare sit there and act like you didn't have a choice. You always had a choice. Board meetings or me. Your empire or us. You chose. Every single time, you chose. You're right." 2 words. Just 2 words. But they came out broken, shattered. Nothing like the man who once told me marriage would have to wait because he had a company to build. "I chose wrong," he continued, and I watched a tear slide down his cheek. Darius Mitchell. Crying. The man who never showed weakness, who treated emotions like liabilities on a balance sheet. I chose everything that didn't matter and lost everything that did. And now I'm sitting here, half the man I used to be, watching you photograph someone else's happiness. And Simone, I can't breathe. I can't breathe because 5 years ago, I had you and I threw you away like you were nothing. I was nothing to you. You were everything. His voice cracked. You were everything. And I was too blind, too stupid, too obsessed with being somebody that I didn't realize I was already somebody. I was yours, and that should have been enough. I felt my camera slip from my fingers. This conversation, this moment. It was about to change everything I thought I knew about second chances, about forgiveness, about whether a man who broke you into 1,000 pieces could ever be trusted to hold your heart again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. To the moment I saw him sitting alone at a wedding, isolated and broken, while everyone else danced. The moment that forced me to decide between the safety of my walls and the terrifying possibility of letting him back in. This is my story, our story. And it starts with a wedding I never should have accepted. The morning sun filtered through my apartment windows, painting golden stripes across the hardwood floors. I stood in front of my closet, running my fingers over the garment bags that held my professional wardrobe. Black dress, always black. Practical, elegant, invisible. That was the goal at weddings. Capture the moments, not become one. My phone buzzed on the dresser. Keisha's name flashed across the screen. "Girl, please tell me you're already up," she said before I could even say hello. "The Brooks wedding is today, and if we're shooting the most high-profile event of the season, I need you caffeinated and focused." I smiled despite myself. Keisha Williams had been my assistant for 3 years, but somewhere along the way she'd become my best friend, the sister I never had, the one person who knew all my secrets, including the ones I tried to bury. "I'm up, I'm dressed, I'm ready." "You're lying. I can hear that tone." "What's wrong?" I sank onto the edge of my bed, looking at the framed print on my wall. One of my first professional shots. A bride and groom silhouetted against a sunset, their hands intertwined. Love captured in a single frame. I'd built an entire career on photographing love while keeping my own heart locked away. "Nothing's wrong," I said. "Just thinking about how far we've come. Captured moments is actually shooting the Brooks wedding. 5 years ago, I was starting over with nothing but a used camera and a dream. And now you're the most sought-after wedding photographer on the East Coast." Keisha finished. "Simone Taylor, the woman who makes love look like art. Now get your artistic behind in gear. I'll meet you at the venue in 2 hours. And Simone, whatever's got you in your feelings this morning, leave it at home. Today is about work." She hung up before I could respond. If only I'd known that leaving my feelings at home would be impossible. That the past I'd spent 5 years running from was about to show up in a wheelchair, forcing me to confront everything I thought I'd moved beyond. The Ashford estate sat on 20 acres of perfectly manicured grounds just outside of Charlotte. Old money, new money, all the money. It was the kind of venue that required a year-long waitlist and a budget that could feed a small country. White columns, sprawling gardens, a ballroom that looked like it belonged in a European palace. I pulled my SUV through the gates, equipment cases rattling in the back. Keisha was already there, leaning against her car, protective gear bags at her feet. "There she is," she called out, pushing her braids over her shoulder. "Thought you might have gotten cold feet." "It's just a wedding, Keisha. It's the wedding." Jamal Brooks marrying Destiny Washington. Black excellence meets black royalty. Her father owns half the commercial real estate in the South. His tech company just got valued at $800 million. This is the event everyone's talking about. I grabbed my main camera bag, the weight familiar and comforting. Through my lens, I was in control. I decided what moments mattered, what stories got told, what stayed in frame and what got left out. Then we better make sure we capture every second. We spent the next hour setting up, testing light, scouting angles. The venue coordinator, a severe woman named Patricia, followed us around with a clipboard and a permanent frown. "The ceremony starts at 4, she said. "Cocktail hour on the terrace at 5. Reception in the grand ballroom at 6:30. Dinner at 7. First dance at 8. The timeline is precise. The bride expects perfection. She'll get it," I assured her. By 3 o'clock, guests started arriving. Designer gowns, custom tuxedos, jewelry that cost more than my first car. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, camera raised, capturing the moments between moments. The grandmother adjusting her grandson's bow tie, the bridesmaids laughing over champagne, the groom nervously checking his watch. "Simone, you getting these arrivals?" Keisha asked through my earpiece. We'd set up a communication system so we could coordinate without shouting across the venue. "Got them. The light on the front steps is perfect. How's the bridal suite?" "Chaos and hairspray. Destiny looks incredible. Her dress is giving me all the feelings." I smiled, moving toward the terrace where cocktail hour would take place. The space was stunning. White flowers everywhere, crystal glasses catching the afternoon sun, round tables with cream linens, a string quartet setting up in the corner. That's when I saw the wheelchair. Just a glimpse at first. Chrome and black leather. Positioned near the far edge of the terrace, away from the main gathering area. Someone had placed it there deliberately. Out of the way. Separate. My heart stuttered. No. It couldn't be. I raised my camera, using the zoom lens to bring the area into focus. The wheelchair was empty, but someone's jacket was draped across the back. Expensive fabric. Tailored cut. A style I recognized even after 5 years. "Keisha," I said, my voice barely working. "Keisha, who's on the guest list?" Hold on. Patricia gave me a copy. "Why? What's wrong? You sound weird." "Just check. Please." I heard papers rustling through my earpiece. My hands had started to shake. I lowered the camera, pressing it against my chest like it could steady my racing heart. "Okay, we've got about 200 guests. The Washington family contingent, Brooks family, business associates, friends from college. Oh, and there's a note here that says one guest requested wheelchair-accessible seating. Darius Mitchell. Wasn't he Jamal's business partner back in the day? I think I read about him. Some tech guy who had a stroke or something." The camera slipped from my fingers. I caught it at the last second. Muscle memory saving $3,000 worth of equipment. But I couldn't save myself from the shock that hit me like a physical blow. Darius Mitchell. My ex-fiancé. The man I'd loved with everything I had. The man who'd chosen his company over me. His ambition over us. His empire over the future we'd planned. He was here. "Simone? Simone, you still there? Girl, what's going on?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the sudden flood of memories crashing over me like a wave. 5 years. I'd spent 5 years building walls. Creating a life where he didn't exist. Where the pain he'd caused was just a scar, faded and distant. And now he was here, at a wedding I was being paid to photograph, and I had no escape. "I need a minute," I managed to say. "Simone, the ceremony starts in 30 minutes. We don't have a minute." I know. Just give me 60 seconds. I walked quickly toward the nearest bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and let my head fall back against the cool metal door. My breathing came in short, sharp gasps. Not a panic attack. I didn't have time for a panic attack. But close. Too close. Darius Mitchell. In a wheelchair. Something had happened to him. Something bad enough that he needed accessibility accommodations. The man who used to run 5 miles every morning, who played basketball on weekends, who moved through the world with the confidence of someone who'd never known physical limitation. Part of me, the part I wasn't proud of, felt a surge of vindication. Karma. Justice. He'd spent years treating people like they were disposable, and now life had humbled him. But another part, a part I'd tried to kill, felt something else entirely. Concern. Worry. The instinct to find him and ask what happened, if he was okay, if he needed anything. I hated that part. Get it together, Simone, I whispered to myself. This is work. Professional. He's just another guest. You don't have to talk to him. You don't have to acknowledge him. Just do your job and get out. My phone buzzed. Keisha. Ceremony's about to start. Where are you? I straightened my shoulders, checked my reflection in the mirror, and put my professional mask firmly in place. Simone Taylor, photographer extraordinaire, calm, collected, completely unaffected by her past showing up in a wheelchair. On my way. The ceremony was beautiful. Jamal and Destiny exchanged vows under an arch of white roses, while 200 guests watched with tears in their eyes. I captured it all. The way he looked at her like she was his entire world. The way she smiled through happy tears. The way their mothers dabbed at their eyes with embroidered handkerchiefs. Through it all, I didn't let myself look at the wheelchair section. I knew he was there, somewhere in my peripheral vision, but I kept my lens trained on the couple, on the beauty and joy of the moment, on anything except the man who used to promise me forever. After the ceremony, guests moved to the terrace for cocktail hour. I followed, camera ready, determined to maintain my professional distance. That lasted exactly 4 minutes. I was photographing a group of bridesmaids, adjusting my angle to catch the golden hour light when I saw him through the viewfinder. Darius Mitchell. Sitting alone near the edge of the terrace. Exactly where that empty wheelchair had been earlier. My finger froze on the shutter button. He looked different, thinner. His face had a gauntness that hadn't been there before. The sharp suit couldn't hide how much weight he'd lost. His left hand rested in his lap, and even from this distance, I could see it didn't move naturally. But his eyes, those were the same, dark brown, intelligent, searching. And right now, they were looking directly at me. Recognition flashed across his face. Shock, disbelief, something that might have been hope or might have been pain. I couldn't tell from this distance, and I wasn't about to get closer to find out. I lowered my camera and turned away, heart hammering. Excuse me. Ladies, I said to the bridesmaids. Beautiful shots. I'll find you later for more. I walked quickly toward the opposite end of the terrace, putting as much distance between us as possible. My hands were shaking again. This was ridiculous. I was 32 years old, a successful business owner, a woman who'd built herself back up from nothing. I would not fall apart because my ex was at a wedding. Simone. His voice stopped me mid-step. Deep, familiar, rougher than I remembered, like maybe the stroke had affected his speech too. I kept walking. Simone, please. Just 30 seconds. Something in his tone made me stop. Not the authority he used to carry. Not the confidence of a man used to getting what he wanted. This was different. Humble, almost pleading. I turned slowly. He'd wheeled himself closer. Not too close. Respectful of my space. His hands gripped the wheels of his chair, and I noticed his left grip was weaker, his fingers not quite closing all the way. Hello, Darius. 2 words. Polite, professional, giving nothing away. I didn't know you'd be here, he said. Jamal didn't mention the photographer by name, or I would have. I wouldn't have. Wouldn't have what? Come to your friend's wedding because your ex might be there. No, I just would have prepared myself better for seeing you again. I crossed my arms, camera hanging against my chest like a barrier. Around us, the cocktail hour buzzed with conversation and laughter. A waiter passed with a tray of champagne. The string quartet played something soft and romantic. You look good, Darius continued when I didn't respond. Really good. Success suits you. What happened to you? The question came out sharper than I intended. More concerned than I wanted to reveal. His eyes flickered with something I couldn't read. Massive stroke. 18 months ago, I was in a board meeting, arguing about third quarter projections, and suddenly half my body stopped working. Spent 3 months in the hospital, 6 months in physical therapy, still going 3 times a week. I'm sorry. Are you? The question hung between us, loaded with history and hurt. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, I said carefully. Not even you. He flinched. Actually flinched. Like my words had physical weight. That's fair. I deserve that. I deserve worse than that. Darius, I'm working. I can't do this right now. When can you? When can we talk? Really talk? Never. We can talk never. You and I have nothing to say to each other. I have things to say to you. Things I should have said 5 years ago. Things I've been trying to find the courage to say ever since I woke up in that hospital and realized I'd wasted my entire life chasing things that didn't matter. My throat tightened. This wasn't happening. This conversation wasn't happening. Simone, please. After the reception, just give me an hour. That's all I'm asking. You think you have the right to ask me for anything? No. I know I don't, but I'm asking anyway. Because if I've learned anything from being flat on my back for 3 months, it's that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and I can't leave this world without telling you the truth about how much I regret losing you. A laugh escaped me. Bitter, sharp. You didn't lose me, Darius. You threw me away. There's a difference. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'd like the chance to explain why I was stupid enough to make the worst decision of my life. I don't need your explanations. Maybe not. But I need to give them. For me, if not for you. I stared at him. This man who used to fill every room with his confidence, who commanded respect with a look, who never asked for anything because he was used to taking what he wanted. Now he sat in a wheelchair, looking up at me, actually asking, Simone, there you are. Keisha appeared at my elbow, slightly out of breath. I need you in the ballroom. They're doing the final setup for the reception, and the light is perfect for detail shots. I'll be right there. No, like now. Patricia is having a moment about the centerpieces and wants documentation that they match the bride's vision. I looked back at Darius. He was watching me with an expression that made my chest hurt, hope mixed with resignation. Like he knew what my answer would be but had to ask anyway. After the reception, I heard myself say, the gardens. But Darius, if this is some attempt to make yourself feel better about the past, you can save it. I don't owe you closure. I know you don't owe me anything, but thank you for listening. I walked away before he could say anything else. Before I could change my mind. Before the part of me that still remembered loving him could override the part that remembered the pain. Keisha grabbed my arm as soon as we were out of earshot. Was that Darius Mitchell? Your Darius Mitchell? He was never mine. You know what I mean. Simone, what is he doing here? And why does he look like he's been through hell? Stroke, 18 months ago. Left him partially paralyzed. Keisha's eyes went wide. Damn, that's rough. Yeah, and he wants to talk to you. Apparently. Are you going to let him? I adjusted my camera settings, checking the battery level, doing anything to avoid Keisha's too perceptive gaze. I already agreed to meet him after the reception, which was stupid. But it's done now. Maybe it's not stupid, Keisha said softly. Maybe it's closure. God knows you've never properly dealt with that whole situation. You just buried it and moved on. Moving on is dealing with it. No, babe. Moving on is running. Dealing with it means facing it head on. Maybe this is your chance. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because deep down, I knew she was right. I'd spent 5 years building a successful business, creating a beautiful life, surrounding myself with good people, but I'd never actually healed from Darius. I'd just built walls high enough that the wound didn't show. Now those walls were about to be tested. The reception was a blur of carefully orchestrated moments. First dance, father-daughter dance, mother-son dance, toasts that made people laugh and cry, dinner service, cake cutting, bouquet toss. I captured it all, my camera a shield between me and my emotions. But throughout the evening, I felt his eyes on me, watching, waiting. I'd steal glances when I thought he wouldn't notice. He sat at a table near the back, positioned so his wheelchair wouldn't block any pathways. People would approach him occasionally, shake his hand, exchange a few words, then move on quickly, that uncomfortable energy people get around disability evident in their body language. He was isolated in a room full of people, alone in the crowd. The irony wasn't lost on me. Darius Mitchell had spent years prioritizing business over relationships, networking over genuine connection. He'd built an empire but not a community. And now, when he needed people most, they disappeared like smoke. Around 10 o'clock, the party was still going strong, but I'd gotten all the shots I needed. Keisha was packing up the secondary equipment, and I was doing a final sweep of the venue. "You good if I head out?" Keisha asked. "My sister's watching the kids, and I promised I'd be home by 11. "Go. I'll finish up here." She gave me a long look. "You're really going to talk to him?" I said I would. "And you're sure you're ready for that?" "No. But I'm doing it anyway." Keisha hugged me, quick and fierce. "Call me if you need me. I don't care what time it is. And Simone, protect your peace. You don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness. Not understanding. Nothing. Remember that." I nodded, not trusting my voice. After she left, I took my time packing up my main gear, cleaning lenses, organizing memory cards, delaying the inevitable. Finally, there was nothing left to do but face it. I found Darius exactly where I expected him. In the gardens, away from the reception noise, sitting near a fountain that sparkled under strategic landscape lighting. He'd removed his suit jacket. His tie was loosened. He looked tired but alert. "You came," he said as I approached. "I said I would. You also said you'd marry me once. Words don't always mean what they used to." I stopped walking. "If you brought me out here to be cruel, this conversation is over before it starts." No. I'm sorry. I'm nervous." Which is ridiculous because I used to pitch to venture capitalists without breaking a sweat. But the thought of talking to you makes my hands shake. I noticed then that his right hand was indeed trembling slightly. He caught me looking and gave a self-deprecating smile. The stroke left some lasting effects. Weakness on my left side, tremors when I'm stressed, speech therapy for 6 months because I couldn't form words properly. Real humbling experience for a guy who thought he was invincible. I sat down on a nearby bench, not too close, maintaining distance, but present, listening. "Tell me what happened." "The whole story." He took a deep breath, and I watched his chest rise and fall. Even in the dim garden lighting, I could see the exhaustion etched into his features. This was a man who'd been through something that changed him fundamentally. "It was a Tuesday," he began. "Normal day. I was in back-to-back meetings from 6 in the morning. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't slept more than 4 hours. Was running on coffee and adrenaline. We were closing a deal that would take the company to the next level. Everything I'd worked for was finally coming together." He paused, staring at the fountain. I was mid-sentence, explaining some technical specification, when suddenly I couldn't remember the words. Just couldn't access them. And then my left arm went numb. I tried to stand up and my leg wouldn't hold me. I went down right there in the conference room. Darius. The doctors said I was lucky. Caught it fast enough that the damage wasn't catastrophic, but I spent 3 months in hospitals and rehab facilities. Learning to walk again. Learning to use my left hand. Learning to talk without slurring my words. He looked at me then, and the vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke me. And you know what the worst part was? When I woke up in that hospital bed, when they told me I might never fully recover, when I realized my entire life had just imploded, you want to know who was there? I waited. Nobody. My parents came once out of obligation. My business partners sent flowers and get-well cards. The woman I was dating left after 2 weeks because, and I quote, "she didn't sign up for this." I had built this massive empire, this huge network of contacts and colleagues, and when I actually needed people, I was alone. His voice cracked on the last word. That's when I started thinking about you. About us. About the fact that 5 years earlier I'd had someone who would have moved heaven and earth for me, and I threw it away. I threw you away, Simone. For what? For a company that replaced me the second I couldn't perform? For success that meant nothing when I had no one to share it with? I felt tears building but refused to let them fall. Not yet, not for him. You made your choices, Darius. I begged you to choose differently. I begged you to choose me. Choose us. And every single time you picked work. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you do. I don't think you understand what it's like to love someone with everything you have and watch them treat you like an afterthought. Do you remember our engagement party? Yes. Do you remember what happened? I missed it. Emergency board meeting. You didn't just miss it, Darius. You left me standing in front of 100 people. Friends, family, everyone we knew. I'd rented out that restaurant, planned the whole thing, wore the dress I'd been saving for a special occasion. And you sent a text. A text. 3 hours after you were supposed to be there. My voice was rising now. 5 years of suppressed anger finally finding its voice. I stood there making excuses for you while people looked at me with pity. My mother cried in the bathroom. My father asked me if I was sure I wanted to marry a man who couldn't be bothered to show up for his own engagement party. And I defended you. I told them you were building something important, that they didn't understand the pressure you were under. Simone. I went home that night and waited for you. Thought maybe you'd come home with apologies and explanations. You rolled in at 2 a.m, smelling like scotch and cigars from whatever celebration you'd had with your board members, and you were surprised I was upset. Surprised, like it hadn't even occurred to you that missing your own engagement party might be a problem. I was an idiot. You were selfish. There's a difference. He absorbed that like a blow. Good. He should feel this. Should understand what his choices cost. That's when I knew, I continued, my voice quieter now but no less intense. That night, watching you stumble in without a care in the world, I knew I would always be second, third, 10th on your priority list. And I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't keep loving someone who didn't love me back. But I did love you. I do love you. No, Darius. You loved the idea of me. You loved having someone waiting at home, but you didn't love me enough to show up, to be present, to choose me over a board meeting. Silence fell between us, heavy with truth and pain. The fountain bubbled. Music drifted from the reception. Somewhere in the distance, someone laughed. You're right, Darius said finally. About all of it. I loved you, but I didn't know how to prioritize you. Didn't know how to balance ambition with relationship. Didn't understand that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. He wheeled himself slightly closer, and I didn't move away. The stroke taught me that. Lying in that hospital bed, unable to move, unable to work, stripped of everything I thought defined me, I had to face who I really was. And Simone, I didn't like what I saw. A man who'd built an empire but couldn't build a relationship. Who had money but no meaning. Who'd achieved everything and had nothing. And that's supposed to make it better? The fact that it took you losing everything to realize what you had? No. It doesn't make it better. It just explains why I'm sitting here now, in a wheelchair, asking you for something I have no right to ask for. Which is what exactly? He met my eyes, and what I saw there made my breath catch. Raw honesty, complete vulnerability. The walls he used to hide behind completely dismantled. Forgiveness. Not because I deserve it. I know I don't. But because I need you to know that you were right. About everything. And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, truly sorry for every time I chose wrong. For every moment I made you feel less than everything you are. For throwing away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too arrogant to see its value. A tear slid down my cheek before I could stop it. Sorry doesn't give me back 5 years, Darius. I know. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I cried myself to sleep. The therapy I needed to put myself back together. The walls I had to build just to feel safe again. I know. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you broke my heart so completely I haven't been able to let anyone in since. His eyes widened at that. You haven't dated anyone? I've dated. I just haven't let anyone matter. Haven't let anyone close enough to hurt me like you did. So congratulations, Darius. You didn't just break my heart. You broke my ability to trust that anyone would actually choose me, actually stay. God, Simone, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He was crying now too, actual tears streaming down his face. The mighty Darius Mitchell, brought to tears in a garden while a wedding celebration continued without us. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I whispered. "I don't know if I even want to try." "That's fair. That's more than fair. But I need you to understand something. The woman you knew 5 years ago, she doesn't exist anymore. I rebuilt myself from nothing, created a life that doesn't need anyone's validation. I'm successful. I'm independent. I'm content. Are you happy?" The question hit like an arrow, straight and true. What? Are you happy? Content isn't the same as happy. Successful isn't the same as fulfilled. So I'm asking, are you happy, Simone? I opened my mouth to say yes, to tell him my life was perfect without him, that I'd moved on completely and never looked back. But the lie wouldn't come, because the truth was, I photographed love every single weekend, captured moments of connection and joy and partnership. And every time I went home alone to my beautiful apartment with my successful business and my carefully constructed life, I felt the emptiness, the missing piece I'd never been able to replace. "No," I finally said, "I'm not happy. I'm surviving. I'm successful, but happy? No." The admission hung in the air between us like a confession. I'd never said it out loud before. Not to Keisha, not to my mother, not even to myself in the quiet moments when the truth became too loud to ignore. "Neither am I," Darius said softly. "I've got more time now than I know what to do with, more perspective than I ever wanted. And all it's shown me is how empty everything was, how empty everything still is." I wiped at my eyes, frustrated with myself for crying, for feeling anything at all. "What do you want from me, Darius? Really? Because if this is about easing your guilt, making yourself feel better about the past, I can't help you. I'm not your absolution. I know you're not. And I'm not asking you to absolve me. I'm asking if there's any possibility, any chance at all, that we could start over. Not pick up where we left off. Not pretend the past didn't happen, but start fresh. Two different people who've both been broken and rebuilt. Start over how? As what? I don't know. Friends, maybe. Just something. Anything. Because sitting here with you right now, actually talking to you, is the most alive I've felt in 18 months. And I know I have no right to that feeling. I know I destroyed any claim I had to your time or attention. But Simone, I'm asking anyway." I stood up, pacing away from the bench. My mind was racing. My heart was pounding. Every logical part of my brain was screaming at me to walk away, to protect myself, to maintain the walls that had kept me safe for 5 years. But another part, a part I'd tried so hard to silence, was whispering something different. What if he's really changed? What if suffering transformed him the way it's supposed to? What if walking away means missing the chance at something real? "I need to think," I said. "This is too much, too fast. I came here to photograph a wedding, and now you're sitting here asking for a second chance, and I can't process this right now." "Okay, that's fair. Can I give you my number? You don't have to call. You don't have to do anything. But if you want to talk, if you decide there's anything worth salvaging here, I'd like the chance." I turned back to look at him. Really look at him. The wheelchair. The trembling hands. The vulnerability etched into every line of his face. This wasn't the man I'd left. That man was arrogant, untouchable, convinced of his own invincibility. This man had been humbled by life, broken down, rebuilt into something different. "Give me your number," I heard myself say. Hope flashed across his face so bright it almost hurt to see. "Really? I'm not promising anything, but I'll think about it. That's all I can offer right now. That's more than I deserve." He pulled out his phone, fingers moving slowly on his left hand, compensating for the weakness. He read off his number and I saved it in my contacts. Seeing his name appear on my screen felt surreal, like opening a door I'd sealed shut years ago. "Thank you," he said, "for listening, for not throwing a drink in my face, for being kinder than I had any right to expect. Don't thank me yet. I might still decide you're not worth the risk. I know. And if that's what you decide, I'll respect it. But Simone, for what it's worth, You're worth every risk. You always were. I just didn't have the sense to see it. I didn't trust myself to respond to that. So I just nodded, grabbed my camera bag, and walked back toward the venue. My legs felt shaky. My whole body felt like it had been through an emotional earthquake. Behind me, I heard the soft sound of his wheelchair on the garden path, moving in the opposite direction, giving me space. As I reached my car, I found Keisha leaning against the driver's side door, arms crossed, eyebrow raised. "Thought you'd be home by now," I said. "Thought you might need backup." "How'd it go?" "I don't know." He apologized. Really apologized. Took full responsibility. Said he wants to start over. "And what do you want?" I leaned against the car next to her, staring up at the stars. The reception was still going inside, music and laughter drifting on the night air, people celebrating love, believing in it, betting their whole lives on it. "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me wants to tell him to go to hell, that he had his chance and he blew it. But another part remembers why you loved him in the first place. "Yeah?" Keisha was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you something without you getting defensive? When has that ever stopped you?" "Fair point. Look, I've known you for 3 years. In that time, I've watched you photograph maybe 100 weddings. You capture love beautifully. But Simone, you don't believe in it. Not for yourself. You go through the motions of dating, but you never let anyone in. You've built this perfect life, but you're living it alone. I'm fine alone. You're safe alone. That's not the same as fine. And maybe this is the universe giving you a chance to actually heal instead of just hiding. I'm not saying trust him. I'm not saying jump back into anything, but maybe consider that forgiveness isn't about him. It's about you. About letting go of the weight you've been carrying." I felt tears threatening again. Keisha pulled me into a hug. "Whatever you decide, I've got your back. But babe, don't let fear make your decisions. You're stronger than that." That night, I lay in bed staring at my phone. Darius's number glowed on the screen. I could delete it. Pretend this whole evening never happened. Go back to my comfortable, safe, emotionally unavailable life. Or I could take a risk. 3 days passed before I texted him. I kept it simple, professional almost. "Coffee? Thursday at 2, the cafe on 5th Street. His response came within minutes. "I'll be there. Thank you for this." Thursday arrived wrapped in autumn sunshine. I got to the cafe early, claiming a table in the back corner. Somewhere private but public enough that I felt safe. Keisha had offered to come as backup, but this was something I needed to do alone. Darius arrived exactly on time. He maneuvered his wheelchair through the cafe door with practiced ease, scanning the room until he spotted me. The smile that crossed his face was tentative, grateful. He ordered a black coffee. I already had my latte. We sat across from each other, the small table between us feeling like both a barrier and a bridge. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "I almost didn't." "What changed your mind?" I traced the rim of my cup, gathering my thoughts. I'd rehearsed this conversation a dozen times, but now that we were here, the words felt harder to access. "A friend told me that forgiveness isn't about you. It's about me. About letting go of weight I've been carrying." And she was right. I've spent 5 years angry, hurt, building walls. And I'm tired, Darius. I'm tired of letting the past dictate my future. So this is closure? I don't know what this is. That's what I need to figure out. I need to understand who you are now, not who you were. Because the man I left 5 years ago isn't someone I could ever trust again. But maybe you're different now. Maybe we both are. He nodded slowly. I am different. The stroke changed everything. Not just physically, though that's obvious, but mentally, emotionally. When you can't move, can't work, can't do any of the things you've built your identity around, you're forced to figure out who you are underneath all that. And who are you? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. But I know who I'm not anymore. I'm not the guy who thinks success is measured in dollars and market share. I'm not the guy who believes relationships can wait while you build an empire. I'm not the guy who takes the people who love him for granted. He took a sip of his coffee, his left hand steadier today than it had been at the wedding. I've been in therapy, real therapy. Not just physical rehabilitation, 3 times a week for the past year, working through why I made the choices I made, why I couldn't let myself be vulnerable, why I always put work first. What did you learn? That my father spent my entire childhood telling me that success was the only thing that mattered. That men who couldn't provide, who couldn't achieve, weren't real men. He worked himself into an early grave trying to prove his worth, and I inherited that mindset. Thought that if I could just build something big enough, successful enough, I'd finally be enough. His voice cracked slightly. Turns out, I was chasing something that didn't exist, because no amount of success ever made me feel worthy. There was always another goal, another milestone, another achievement. I was running on a treadmill that had no end, and I sacrificed us, for something that was never going to satisfy me. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Context for the pain he'd caused. My therapist helped me see that, he continued. Helped me understand that I was terrified of being vulnerable, of needing someone. Because needing someone meant admitting I wasn't self-sufficient, wasn't invincible, and that scared me more than any business deal ever did. So you pushed me away. I pushed you away. Told myself I was protecting you from my demanding schedule, but really, I was protecting myself from the terrifying possibility that you might see through all my success to the insecure kid underneath. I sat with that for a moment. All these years, I'd thought he didn't love me enough, didn't value me. But maybe the truth was more complicated. Maybe he was so broken himself that he couldn't let anyone close enough to see the cracks. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said quietly. Understanding why doesn't erase the hurt. I know, and I'm not asking it to. I'm just trying to give you the truth I should have given you 5 years ago. The honesty I was too scared to offer. What do you want now, Darius? From life. From yourself. What are you actually working toward? He considered the question, and I could see him really thinking about it, not giving me an easy answer, but searching for the truth. I want to matter. Not because of what I've built or how much money I have, but because of how I show up for people. I want relationships that are real. I want to volunteer at the rehab center where I spent 6 months, help other stroke survivors navigate their recovery. I want to reconnect with my sister and actually be present in my nephew's life. I want to build something that matters beyond profit margins. He paused, then met my eyes directly. And if I'm being completely honest, I want another chance with you. Not to recapture what we had, but to build something new, something better, based on who we actually are, not who we were pretending to be. My heart was pounding. This was the moment. The choice. Safety or risk. Walls or vulnerability. I can't just jump back into a relationship with you, I said. Too much has happened. Too much hurt. I understand. But maybe we could try being friends first. Actual friends. Getting to know each other as the people we are now. I would like that. A lot. With boundaries. We take this slow. If at any point it becomes too much, or if I feel like you're falling back into old patterns, I walk away. No guilt. No second guessing. Deal. Whatever boundaries you need. And Darius, I need you to understand something. I've built a good life. A life I'm proud of. I'm not looking for someone to complete me or rescue me. I'm whole on my own. So if we do this, it's because we're choosing to build something together. Not because either of us needs the other. A smile spread across his face. Genuine, warm, different from the corporate smile I remembered. Simone Taylor. Successful, independent, whole on her own. I wouldn't want it any other way. We talked for 2 hours. About everything and nothing. He told me about his physical therapy sessions, the small victories of regaining mobility. I told him about building my photography business, the challenges of being a woman in a competitive industry. It was strange. Sitting across from someone who used to know me intimately but was now almost a stranger. Yet underneath the years and changes, there were sparks of the connection we used to have. Moments where we laughed at the same thing, finished each other's sentences, fell into comfortable silence. When we finally left the cafe, he walked me to my car. Well, wheeled himself beside me while I walked. "Same time next week?" he asked. "Same time next week." I drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. Like I'd set down a burden I'd been carrying so long I forgot it was weighing me down. I didn't know where this was going. Didn't know if we could actually build something from the ashes of what we'd lost. But for the first time in 5 years, I was willing to try. The next few months unfolded slowly. Weekly coffee dates turned into walks in the park. Walks turned into dinners. Dinners turned into long phone conversations that stretched past midnight. Darius was true to his word about changing. He showed up. Every single time. If he said he'd call at 7, my phone rang at 7. If we made plans, he kept them. And on the rare occasions when something came up, he communicated early, explained clearly, and rescheduled immediately. "You're really doing the work," I told him one evening as we sat on a bench watching the sunset. 6 weeks into our friendship, and I could feel my walls starting to crack. "What do you mean?" "Therapy, self-reflection, actually changing. A lot of people talk about it, fewer actually do it." "I don't have a choice," he said simply. "The old way nearly killed me, literally, and it cost me you. I'm not making those mistakes again." I watched him as he spoke. The sunset painted his profile in gold and amber. He'd gained some weight back, looked healthier. The tremor in his hands had decreased. Physical therapy was paying off. But the bigger changes were internal. The way he listened, more than he talked. Asked questions instead of making assumptions. Admitted when he was wrong. Showed vulnerability without shame. This was a different man than the one I'd loved before. And I was starting to realize I could fall for this version. This authentic, humble, present version. That realization terrified me. "Darius, can I ask you something? Anything? Are you doing all this for me? The therapy, the changes, the showing up. Is it because you want me back?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Honestly, at first, maybe part of it was about you. About trying to become someone worthy of a second chance. But the deeper I got into the work, the more I realized I was doing it for me. Because I didn't like who I was. Didn't want to be that person anymore." He turned to face me fully. "You're the catalyst. Seeing you at that wedding, realizing what I'd lost, that pushed me to finally address things I'd been avoiding. But the changes? Those are for me. Because I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and not hate what I see. And if those changes also make me someone you could potentially trust again, that's a gift. But it's not the reason." I believed him. That was the scary part. I actually believed him. "I'm starting to care about you again," I admitted. "And that scares me. It scares me too. What if we try this and it doesn't work? What if the past is too big to overcome? Then we'll have tried. We'll have been brave enough to take a risk on something real. And if it doesn't work, at least we'll know. We won't spend the rest of our lives wondering what if." I reached over and took his hand. His right hand, the stronger one. His fingers intertwined with mine, and the touch sent electricity up my arm. "I'm not ready to call this a relationship," I said softly. "But I'm ready to admit it's becoming more than friendship. What do we call it then?" "We don't. We just let it be what it is. Two people who hurt each other learning how to trust again." He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to my knuckles. The gesture was so tender it made my eyes sting. "I can work with that. If you're sitting there wondering whether she should really give him another chance, I need you to drop a comment right now. Tell me if you think she should walk away or risk her heart again. Because what happens next is going to challenge everything you think you know about second chances and forgiveness. Don't just watch this story. Be part of it. Comment below." 3 months into whatever we were calling this, Darius invited me to a stroke survivors support group he'd been attending. "You don't have to come," he said quickly. "I know it might be heavy, but I talk about you sometimes. About us. About the journey. And I thought maybe you'd want to hear other people's stories, see what recovery looks like from different perspectives." I was surprised by the invitation, and touched that he wanted to include me in this part of his life. The support group met in a community center across town. When we arrived, I was struck by the diversity of the group. Young and old, different races, different backgrounds, all united by the common experience of having their lives interrupted by stroke. Darius introduced me to Marcus, the group facilitator, a man in his 50s who'd had his stroke 7 years ago. "So you're the famous Simone," Marcus said with a warm smile. "Darius talks about you all the time, about the second chance you're giving him." "We're taking it slow," I said. "Smart. Relationships are hard enough without the added complexity of rebuilding after hurt. But I'll tell you what I've learned from 7 years of running this group. The people who do the work, who really commit to change, they can become better versions of themselves than they were before the stroke. Suffering either breaks you or remakes you. Darius here is choosing to be remade." The meeting started, and I sat quietly in the back while people shared their stories. A woman named Patricia talked about learning to write again with her non-dominant hand. A young man named Jerome spoke about losing his job, his girlfriend, his apartment, all within months of his stroke. "You find out who really loves you when you can't do anything for them anymore," Jerome said, his voice bitter. "When you're not useful, not productive, just broken. That's when the real ones stay, and the fake ones disappear." Darius shared next. "I've been thinking a lot about identity," he said to the group. "About who I was before the stroke versus who I am now. Before, I was my accomplishments, my job title, my net worth. I measured my value by what I could produce, how much I could achieve." He paused, and I saw him glance back at me. "When the stroke took all that away, I thought I was nothing, had nothing to offer. But through therapy and through reconnecting with someone I hurt very badly, I'm learning that my value isn't in what I do. It's in who I am, how I treat people, whether I show up, whether I'm honest and present and real." "That's beautiful, Darius," Patricia said, "and hard won. Most of us have to lose everything to learn that lesson." After the meeting, several people came up to talk to me, to thank me for giving Darius a chance, to tell me they could see the change in him over the past months. "He was angry when he first started coming," Marcus told me quietly. "Bitter about what he'd lost. But something shifted a few months ago. He started doing the real work. And I think you had something to do with that." "I didn't do anything. He's doing the work himself." "True. But sometimes we need a reason to start. Someone worth changing for. You gave him that." On the drive home I was quiet, processing what I'd witnessed. The vulnerability of that group, the courage it took to keep showing up, keep trying, keep fighting to rebuild lives that had been shattered. "Thank you for bringing me," I finally said. "Thank you for coming. I know it wasn't easy to see. It was important, though, to understand what you've been through, what you're still going through." "I'm not my stroke," Darius said. "I'm learning that. It's part of my story now, but it doesn't define me. Just like losing you doesn't define me. But choosing to fight for you, to become someone worthy of your trust, that's who I want to be defined by." I reached over and squeezed his hand. That night, alone in my apartment, I realized something fundamental had shifted. I wasn't guarding my heart anymore, wasn't waiting for him to mess up, wasn't looking for evidence that he hadn't really changed. I was falling in love. Again, or maybe for the first time because this felt different than before, deeper, more real, based on truth instead of potential. It terrified me, but it also felt right. I called Keisha. "I'm in trouble," I said when she answered. "What kind of trouble?" "The falling in love kind." She laughed. "Simone Taylor finally letting someone past her walls?" "Alert the media. I'm serious. This is scary." "Of course it's scary. Real love is always scary. But babe, I've watched you these past few months. You're lighter, happier, more you than I've ever seen you. Whatever this thing with Darius is, it's good for you. What if he breaks my heart again? What if he doesn't? What if this is your second chance at the love you were always supposed to have? You can't live your whole life protecting yourself from pain. Sometimes you have to risk the fall. When did you become so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just finally ready to listen." 2 weeks later, Darius asked me to be his date to his nephew's birthday party. Meeting his family felt significant. A step beyond coffee dates and support group meetings into something more intentional. "You don't have to," he said quickly. "I know meeting the family is a big step, but Simone, I want you there. I want them to know you, to see how important you are to me." "Okay," I said. "I'll come." His sister Alicia lived in a house in the suburbs with her husband and 8-year-old son Tyler. When we pulled up, I could see balloons tied to the mailbox, hear children's laughter from the backyard. Alicia met us at the door. She was beautiful, warm, and she hugged me like we were old friends. "Simone, finally. Darius talks about you constantly. I was starting to think you were imaginary. Nice to meet you too." She leaned down to hug her brother, and I saw real affection there. "Look at you, big brother. Actually showing up to family events. This is new. I'm trying to do better," Darius said quietly. "You are doing better. I'm proud of you." The party was chaos in the best way. Kids running everywhere, cake and presents, Tyler showing off his new video game to anyone who would watch. Darius was amazing with him, patient, engaged, present in a way I'd never seen him before. Later, while the kids were occupied with a piñata, Alicia pulled me aside. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" "Of course." We stepped into the kitchen, away from the noise. "I need to tell you something," Alicia said. "About Darius. About what he was like before the stroke." I tensed, not sure I wanted to hear this. "He was terrible," she continued. "To everyone, especially to me. Our dad died when Darius was in college, and instead of processing that grief, he just worked harder, became more obsessed with success. We grew apart. He missed birthdays, holidays, never called. When Tyler was born, Darius showed up to the hospital, stayed for 10 minutes, and left to take a conference call." She paused, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. I wrote him off. Decided I was better off without a brother who couldn't be bothered to show up. And then he had the stroke. And Simone, he called me from the hospital, actually called, apologized for years of being absent. Asked if he could be in Tyler's life. Really be in it. "What did you say?" I said I'd think about it. I didn't trust him. Thought it was just the stroke talking. That once he recovered, he'd go back to being the same selfish person. But he didn't. He showed up. To Tyler's soccer games. To family dinners. He calls every week just to check in. He's become the brother I always wanted. Tears were streaming down her face now. "So when I see you here, when I see how he looks at you, I just want you to know that whatever happened between you in the past, the man standing in my backyard playing with my son, that's the real Darius. The one who was always there underneath all the ambition and fear. The stroke didn't create this version. It just finally let him be who he was meant to be all along." I hugged her, and we both cried a little. When we rejoined the party, Darius looked up from where he was helping Tyler with the piñata. Our eyes met across the yard, and he smiled. Open, genuine, full of a lightness I'd never seen before. And I knew I loved him, knew I trusted him, knew I was ready to stop protecting myself and start building something real. That night, as he drove me home, I said, "I think we should stop calling this friendship." He glanced over, surprise and hope warring on his face. "What should we call it?" "A relationship, a real one. Not perfect, not without risk, but real." He pulled the car over, right there on the side of the road, turned to face me fully. "Simone Taylor, are you asking me to be your boyfriend?" I laughed through sudden tears. "I guess I am." "Then yes, absolutely yes. With all the boundaries and patience and slow progress you need, yes." He leaned over and kissed me. Soft, tentative, like I was precious. Like he couldn't quite believe this was real. And for the first time in 5 years, I kissed him back without fear, without walls. Just two broken people choosing to build something beautiful from the pieces. 6 months later, I stood in front of a different wedding venue, different couple, different celebration. But this time, I wasn't alone. Darius was with me, helping carry equipment. He'd progressed enough in physical therapy that he could walk with a cane now. Still had weak moments. Still struggled sometimes. But he was mobile, present, here. "You ready?" he asked, handing me my main camera. Born ready. We'd fallen into an easy rhythm. I'd photograph the weddings, and he'd assist, handle the equipment, scout locations, support me in building the business I'd created. It was perfect. Not because it was without challenges. We still had hard conversations, still worked through triggers and old wounds, still had days when the past felt too heavy. But we showed up for each other, communicated, chose each other every single day. "Simone," he said as we set up in the bridal suite. "Can I tell you something?" "Always." "A year ago, I was sitting in a wheelchair at a wedding, watching you photograph other people's happiness while I sat alone. I thought my life was over, that I'd lost everything that mattered." He set down the light he was holding and took my hands. "But losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to rebuild, to become someone worthy of you, of this. And now I get to stand beside you, supporting your dreams, being part of your world. And Simone, this is better than anything I built before. This is real." I kissed him, not caring that we were supposed to be working. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "I love you too. Every broken, healed, beautiful piece of you." The bride called for me then, and I reluctantly pulled away. Back to work, back to capturing love stories for other people. But this time, I had my own love story too, one built on ashes and second chances, on humility and growth, on the truth that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can lead to the best thing that happens to you. If you believe in second chances, if this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button right now, because this journey we've been on together, it's not just about Simone and Darius. It's about every single one of us who's had to choose between safety and risk, between walls and vulnerability, between protecting ourselves and opening up to love. That evening, after the wedding, Darius and I sat on my apartment balcony watching the city lights. "I've been thinking about something," he said. "Dangerous activity," he laughed. "I've been offered a position, consulting work for tech startups, helping young CEOs avoid the mistakes I made, find work-life balance, build sustainable success. That sounds perfect for you." "It does, but it would mean travel, maybe a few days a month. And I need to know if that's something you're comfortable with. Because Simone, I meant what I said. You're my priority now. If the travel bothers you, I'll turn it down." I thought about the old Darius, the one who would have taken the job without asking. Who would have assumed I'd be fine with whatever he decided? This Darius was asking, considering my feelings, putting our relationship first. "I think you should take it," I said. "Not in spite of our relationship, but because of it. You've learned these lessons the hard way. Other people can benefit from that, and I trust you. Trust us. A few days a month won't break what we've built." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Besides, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right?" He pulled me close, and I rested my head on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd get this," he said softly. "This peace, this happiness. After everything I did, everything I destroyed, I didn't think I deserved it." Maybe it's not about deserving. Maybe it's about choosing. Every day, we choose to trust, to forgive, to build something new. That's not about deserving. That's about courage. When did you become so wise? Someone I love taught me. Taught me that suffering can transform you if you let it. That pride comes before the fall. That success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one. I thought about the journey that brought us here. The pain, the growth, the walls I'd built and slowly dismantled. The man he used to be and the man he'd become. Love the second time around wasn't about recapturing what we'd lost. It was about creating something entirely new. Something built on truth instead of potential. On presence instead of promises. On who we actually were instead of who we hoped to become. "Simone," Darius said, breaking the silence. "I'm not the same man who let you go 5 years ago. I know, and you're not the same woman who left. I know that too. So this, what we have now, this is better, isn't it? Better than what we had before." I considered the question. The old relationship had been passionate but unstable, exciting but unfulfilling, full of potential but lacking in presence. This relationship was different, steady, real, built on a foundation of hard-won growth and authentic connection. "Yes," I said, "this is better, because we're better." separately and together. He kissed the top of my head. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that I've learned, that I've changed, that you can trust me with your heart. You already have proven it. Every day for the past year, showing up, being present, choosing me, choosing us. I'll keep proving it anyway. 3 months after that conversation, on a Sunday morning in early spring, Darius asked me to go for a walk in the park where we'd spent so many hours rebuilding our connection. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, pink and white petals falling like snow. The air smelled sweet, fresh, full of new beginnings. We walked slowly, his cane clicking against the path, my hand wrapped around his arm. You remember the first time we came here? He asked. After that initial coffee date? You could barely make it around the full loop. You were exhausted after 15 minutes. And you were patient. Didn't rush me. Didn't make me feel weak. Why would I? You were doing something hard. That takes strength, not weakness. He stopped walking. We were near the pond, where ducks glided across still water and willow trees swayed in the breeze. Simone, I need to tell you something. My heart started racing. His tone was serious, nervous. Okay. 5 years ago, I had everything I thought I wanted. Success, money, recognition. And I threw away the one thing that actually mattered. You. I told myself I'd have time for love later. After I built my empire. After I proved myself. I was wrong about everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught. I know we said we'd take this slow. I know we have a complicated history. But Simone, I also know that I don't want to spend another day without you being my partner in every sense of the word. I don't want to wait for the perfect moment because I've learned that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect, but not the ring from before. Not the ostentatious diamond he'd given me 5 years ago to prove his success rather than his love. This was different. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. My birthstone. This isn't about recapturing the past, he said. This is about building a future, a real one. Based on who we actually are. Simone Taylor, will you marry me? Will you take a chance on us? On this imperfect, hard-won, absolutely real love we've built? Tears were streaming down my face. Happy tears. Healing tears. A year ago, if someone had told me I'd be standing here, being proposed to by the man who broke my heart, I would have laughed. Would have said it was impossible, that some things were too broken to fix. But we hadn't fixed what was broken. We'd built something entirely new, something stronger for having been through fire. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He stood, slightly unsteady, but determined. Slipped the ring on my finger, pulled me into a kiss that tasted like second chances and new beginnings. Around us, cherry blossoms fell like blessings, like the universe itself was celebrating this unlikely, beautiful, hard-won love. I promise you, Darius said, his forehead pressed against mine. I will show up. I will be present. I will choose you every single day for the rest of my life. I know you will, and I promise to trust you, to let you in, to stop protecting myself from the possibility of pain and embrace the possibility of joy. We stood there for a long time, holding each other. Two people who'd been broken and rebuilt, who'd learned the hard way that success without connection is emptiness. That pride comes before the fall. That sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. As we walked back to the car, hand in hand, I thought about all the weddings I'd photographed over the years. All the love stories I'd captured through my lens while keeping my own heart locked away. I'd been so afraid of being hurt again that I'd almost missed this second chance, this beautiful, imperfect, absolutely real love. What are you thinking? Darius asked. That I'm going to need a new wedding photographer. Can't exactly photograph my own wedding. He laughed. I'm sure Keisha knows someone. She'll probably want to do it herself. She's been waiting for this day almost as long as I have. Simone? Yeah? Thank you. For giving me another chance. For seeing who I could become instead of just who I was. For being brave enough to risk your heart again. Thank you for doing the work. For actually changing. for becoming someone worthy of that risk. I love you. I love you too. And I did. Completely. Without reservation. Without walls. Just open-hearted, hard-won, absolutely real love. The kind of love that's tested by fire and comes out stronger. The kind that's built on truth instead of potential. The kind that shows up, that chooses, that stays. The kind worth waiting for. Worth fighting for. Worth believing in. Even when, especially when, it comes the second time around. Here's what I learned from this journey. From seeing my billionaire CEO ex in a wheelchair, isolated at a wedding. From choosing to sit down instead of walking away. From risking my heart one more time on a man who'd already broken it. Success without connection is emptiness. You can build empires and accumulate wealth and achieve everything the world says matters. But if you have no one to share it with, you have nothing. Pride comes before the fall. The higher you climb on ambition alone, the harder you fall when life humbles you. And life will humble you. It humbles all of us eventually. Vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Opening your heart, admitting your mistakes, asking for help. These are the bravest things you can do. Forgiveness heals the forgiver. I didn't forgive Darius to make him feel better. I forgave him to free myself from the weight of carrying bitterness. Second chances aren't about erasing the past. They're about applying lessons learned to create a better future. People can change, but only if they're willing to do the work. Real work, therapy, self-reflection, honest examination of why they made the choices they made. And finally, love isn't about finding perfect people. It's about finding growing people. People willing to evolve, to learn, to become better versions of themselves. Darius and I didn't get a fairy tale ending. We got something better. A real ending. One built on growth and grace and the courage to try again. If this story moved you, if it made you think about second chances in your own life, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's building walls instead of bridges. Someone who's letting fear make their decisions. And drop a comment telling me about your experience with second chances. Have you given one? Received one? What did it teach you? Subscribe to Cedar Drama for more stories about love, loss, growth, and redemption. Stories that don't just entertain but transform. That remind us we're all broken and we're all healing and we're all worthy of love if we're brave enough to receive it. This is Simone and Darius's story. But maybe it's your story too. Maybe you're standing at a crossroads right now, deciding between safety and risk. Between walls and vulnerability. I can't tell you what to choose, but I can tell you this. The greatest risk isn't opening your heart. It's living your whole life so protected that you never truly connect with another soul. Choose courage. Choose growth. Choose love. Even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. Because on the other side of that fear is everything you've been looking for. Thank you for being part of this journey. For sitting with me through the pain and the healing. For believing that broken things can be made beautiful again. Until next time, remember this. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of second chances. You are worthy of grace. And sometimes, the person you need to forgive most is yourself. This is Cedar Drama, reminding you that every ending is just a new beginning waiting to happen.